Hey guys, let's keep going talking about the digestive system. The last day we ended off talking about deglutition, and then we ended off talking about peristalsis, which is the rhythmic movement of muscles that push food through our digestive system. In this in this video, what we'll talk about is the anatomy of the esophagus and the stomach. So let's start with the esophagus, and this is the beginning of the digestive tube or digestive tract that we talked about. And the esophagus is the tube that'll connect the mouth to the first big organ of the digestive system, which is going to be the stomach. Now, it's a hollow muscular tube that's going to take the food that you just swallowed and the liquid, the stuff that you drank, and it's going to bring it down into the stomach so we can start our real chemical digestion. Now, it's always important when we're talking about anatomy that we talk about the tissue layers that make up the structure. So for the rest of the talk about the digestive system, we're going to be dealing with four basic layers that we'll see that'll happen in each structure. We're going to have the inside part, which is the mucosa. So the mucosa is always going to be the deep part. So inside here is the lumen of the esophagus. So this is the inside of the esophagus. We'll have the mucosa. Right back from the mucosa, we'll have the submucosa. After the submucosa, there will be a layer of muscle, we call it muscularis, and on the outside we'll have a layer of connective tissue that holds everything together and gives it its form, and in this case it's called the adventitia. That name is going to change as we move down through different structures, but we'll talk about that as we get deeper and deeper into the digestive system. So there's a tissue plan of our esophagus. Here's a cross section over here on the right hand side that you can see. It makes it maybe a little bit easier to decipher. You get our mucosa right on the inside. The submucosa will connect the mucosa with the muscularis. Now these two layers right here, circular and longitudinal, that's going to be our muscularis in this case. And on the outside we're going to have the adventitia. What you should notice is that we have these large folds that keep the esophagus, well, that when the esophagus is not being used, you're not swallowing, the mucosa and the submucosa will kind of collapse and have these folds, and it'll keep it closed. Except for when you're swallowing, of course. When you swallow, those folds will stretch as the food passes through, with peristalsis. Gone the wrong direction. Okay, now the esophagus is not an organ that produces any digestive enzymes, and the question there says, does any digestion take place in the esophagus? And the most obvious and right answer is going to be no, but you could argue that since digestion started taking place in the mouth, those enzymes are still in contact with the food, so they're going to be digesting stuff as they move through. But as you know, food passes through the esophagus very, very quickly, so for the most part, we say no digestion happens in the esophagus. Alright, at each end of this muscular tube that is the esophagus, we have two sphincter muscles. Sphincter muscles are, of course, circular muscles, and they basically open or close certain parts of the body. When we're talking about the esophagus, we have the upper esophageal sphincter, and this is the one that's in the back of your throat. And this is under skeletal control. It's skeletal muscle, so we have some measure of opening and closing it ourselves. So this sphincter will regulate the movement of the food from the pharynx and into the esophagus. So it's the last part of swallowing or deglutition. At the opposite end of the esophagus, right down where the esophagus meets the stomach, we have the lower esophageal sphincter. Now this is smooth muscle, so we don't have any control over this. This sphincter will open up when food is present next to it. That'll cause the muscles to react, open up the sphincter, and that'll allow the food to go from the esophagus into the stomach. So on this picture here, you can see the position of the two sphincters, the upper esophageal sphincter and the lower esophageal sphincter, and you can also see food passing through the esophagus as it makes its way from the mouth into the stomach. Alright, so the first major organ of the digestive system is going to be the stomach, and this is where we're going to get our first big our big increase in chemical digestion. So for the rest of this video, we'll talk about the anatomy of the stomach, and then in later videos we'll talk about some of the physiology. Okay, so the major functions of the stomach are going to include mechanical digestion. So we talked about that in the mouth, where we're physically breaking up and moving around food. Mixing in this case is really important. Stomach also acts as a storage place, so food gets kind of stored in the stomach before it's slowly released into the small intestine. We will have chemical digestion here, we'll have lipids, and this is the first place where we'll start to digest proteins. And there's also production of different things that's secreted into the stomach. One of these in particular is called intrinsic factor, and this is a glycoprotein, and this is going to come along important when we're talking about the physiology of the digestive system. And it's glycoprotein that's really important for us when we're absorbing vitamin B12. So as I said, we'll talk about the physiology in a later video, but for now let's just talk about the anatomy of the stomach. So the stomach is divided up into four major regions. We get the cardia, which is the top part of the stomach where the esophagus and the stomach meet. And that has an important function because the stomach is, remember, it's going to have a low pH. It's going to be a pretty hostile environment. There's going to be enzymes in there that can break down protein, which is what makes up our tissues and organs. So we need to be careful about what gets exposed to the inside of the stomach. So the cardia is an important region to protect the esophagus. Next to that we have an area called the fundus, which is basically the top part of the stomach. And then we have the largest part, which is going to be the body. And then finally we get down to an area we call the pylorus. So those are the four major divisions of the stomach. Okay, so let's talk about each one. The cardia has a lot of glands in there which secrete mucus, and they're called mucus glands. And the idea behind this is to protect the esophagus. Remember, the inside of the stomach is going to have those acids, it's going to have those enzymes, and it's generally a nasty place for tissue. That's why we can break down protein in there and so on. So the idea behind this area here, known as the cardia, is to prevent this acid from leaving the stomach and moving back up into the esophagus. And I'm sure some of you guys have had this. A lot of times if you eat spicy food, it causes this area right here to be a bit weak, and as a result a little bit of this acid will move up into the esophagus and you get what people commonly call heartburn. If this happens over and over and over again, eventually we can damage the tissue of the esophagus, and that can be quite damaging. It can be pretty serious. So this is how the stomach, the body protects itself from some of the harsh environments that's inside the stomach. Now the second part is the fundus, and the fundus, remember, is the very top part of the stomach next to the cardia. And in this part of the stomach, it first of all is going to come in contact with the diaphragm, which of course is the muscle that helps aerate the lungs. In this part of the stomach we're going to see a lot of glands here that secrete acids and enzymes, which will contribute to the chemical digestion that happens in the other parts of the stomach. Alright, so the third part of the stomach is what we call the body, and this is the biggest and probably the main part. If you think of the body of the stomach like a mixing bowl, this is where when you swallow your food, it tends to build up into the body of the stomach. And in the body of the stomach we're going to find we're going to find some glands for sure, but the secretions from the fundus are going to drop down. So from the fundus up here, all these secretions will move into the body, and then we're going to have our enzymes, we're going to have all these secretions, and then in there it's going to mix with the food, and this is where we're going to get a ton of chemical digestion. Okay, so in that part here we're going to have acids, we're going to have enzymes, and we're going to have our food. All of those things get mixed together, we're increasing surface area, and we're helping chemical digestion. Now the last part of the stomach is the pylorus. This is towards the base or the bottom part of the stomach, and this is where we're going to empty the contents of the stomach slowly into the first part of the small intestine, which is called the duodenum. Now this will happen through another sphincter muscle called the pyloric sphincter muscle. There's also going to be glands found in the pylorus that are going to secrete mucus, because we need to make sure that this stuff leaving the stomach with this really low pH isn't going to damage the first part of the small intestine. So we'll see mucus, a lot of mucus membranes or mucus glands down here. We'll also see glands that secrete gastrin and somatostatin hormones, and we'll talk more about those in the physiology part of the stomach. Okay, now if we look at the tissue plan layer, it's going to be quite similar to the esophagus, although it's going to have its little bit of differences. The outside of the stomach, instead of being called the adventitia, it's often called the peritoneum or the serosa. So this is going to be the outside surface of the stomach, and that's going to come in contact with the other organs. Right inside the serosa, we're going to have our muscle layer. The muscles in the stomach are quite a bit different than we see in the rest of the digestive system. I'll talk about that in a couple of seconds. What's going to connect the muscularis to the mucosa is this layer of submucosa, which is connective tissue. And then finally we get the mucosa, which is right on the inside. This is the part where we're going to have our blood vessels. This is where we're going to have our glands. These is where we're going to produce our secretions, and also maybe a little tiny bit of absorption. Okay, so here's a cross section. You can see the outside of the stomach is going to be our serosa, and as we get deeper, don't forget when you see the word lumen, that means the inside. So this right here is the same thing. So we start with the outside with the serosa, and we move to the muscularis, the submucosa, and the mucosa. You can see in the stomach the muscularis is quite thick, and if you look really closely, you can see that there's 1, 2, 3 layers of muscle. So 3 layers of muscle, smooth muscle, remember, because we can't control the contractions in our stomach. We've got longitudinal and circular muscles, and that's common throughout our digestive system. It's very common to see 2 groups of muscles, longitudinal and circular, and these work with each other to move stuff around. In the stomach, we get this 3rd layer, which is the oblique layer. And this oblique layer, so we get our longitudinal muscles, which will run this way. We get our circular muscles that run this way. And then we get our oblique muscles that run on a diagonal. So this gives us, or the stomach, a lot of muscular flexibility and motion. So when the stomach, those 3 different muscle layers stretch and contract, they can mix stuff up really, really well. And that helps us take our food, mix it with our enzymes, our acids, our buffers, our mucus, and then we call that mixture, we call that chyme. Now, inside the stomach, we're going to have these folds of the mucosa, and if you go back a few slides, you'll see that the mucosa is all folded. There's lots of different nooks and crannies in there, and in the stomach, we call those rugae. And when the stomach is empty, those rugae tend to collapse and the stomach gets smaller, and when the stomach expands, those rugae will stretch, and it gives the stomach a lot of flexibility. Okay, and on the next video we'll start to talk about the physiology of the stomach, and we'll talk about some of the things that help us digest our food.